Hello and greetings. Thank you for joining us. A lack of mergers and acquisitions in the uranium sector, a topic that isn't talked about much and has been an initiative of ours that we've been spreading awareness on for the past year or so, both off stage and also on stage. From a company building perspective, from an economic perspective, from an investor perspective, and from a best value perspective, M&A should be done early on in a cyclical sector. Not just any M&A, not just M&A for the sake of M&A or waving a piece of paper to check off a box. No, there is no doubt in my mind that meaningful value M&A is the foundation for the strongest value creation when you are building a true mining company. Sure, value can be created in other ways using other means and methods, but in this game, it is about a total strategy to value creation, and M&A makes up a big part of that when it's done right. We'll cover a few examples a little bit later. Before we get started here, just a few words of caution on the screen and our terms of use. Please don't take it personally. Obviously, the subject matter in this presentation targets companies that are not exploration stage, but rather a few management teams that either have past production experience, are an active producer now, are a restart production co, or those ambitious enough to consolidate and build new producing companies with a pipeline of growth projects. Now, as you might guess, due to the sensitive nature of the topic at hand, we can't cover specific M&A discussions when it comes to what companies are viable marriages or what specific projects should be obtained. As you can see on the screen, depletion is a problem. Kazatomprom, Cameco, and even the smaller past producers have projects that don't last this decade. In the mining world, any producer with less than 10 years mineable reserves is a problem, and anything less than 7 years is survival critical. In a publicly traded uranium world, we have survival critical status and nearly no action is being taken. In this case, doing nothing is not the best course of action. To the management teams, please don't let your personal feelings and self-serving wants obstruct the path to a better long-term deal that maximizes value better together than two separate companies who each lack what the other has. Remember, you are there to represent the full interests of the shareholders before your own personal interests. Now, some people have a tendency to settle into their chairs and often don't like what could shake them out of it. For some, it's easy to forget whose capital is at stake. Just imagine if the roles were reversed. You'd get the point pretty quickly. This is why understanding value is so important to my next point. Many of these companies, after a horrific bear market, continue to think that their project is worth the stated NPV of some paid study. How many times have you heard the words, "Oh, well, we're terribly undervalued"? Right. "Oh, I talked to the board and we think our shares are worth 1 times NPV." This is a fallacy in the current market conditions. It's unreasonable and unobtainable expectations. The market assigns value, not some company or some paid, self-serving, in a lot of cases, economic study. The market assigns value for many other reasons, including good moves to advance toward a common goal of obtainable value for shareholders, not management enrichment and entrenchment. With this, you throw in the personalities and the characters that often derail the M&A train. Then this resorts to more hostile means of getting things done, which is often unnecessary, stressful, and also costly. Capital generally isn't a problem, and we've seen this most recently with a wave of capital raisings done in the first and second quarters of 2021. Furthermore, most deals will be done with issuance of shares, not pure cash. The cash component, of course, is very important and is better used in more hostile environments. What I've mentioned here are the biggest contributors to obstructing M&A. In fact, failure to do deals that reward shareholders on each side of the transaction can be looked upon from a negligent and bad faith position. The point is here to achieve a common ground and deliver the reasons why an acquisition or a merger makes sense towards maximizing full value during later stages in the price cycle. Another point is the cold hard truth that many companies left over from the past cycle never got bought, and also don't have the expertise to advance their project to a potential mine. So what do? Either you pass the torch to capable hands, or you sit there and issue paper, collect a paycheck, and wait it out until the shareholders potentially kick you out. At the very least, put a for sale sign on the front window. Many of these companies can't even take steps to let the market know they are for sale. They need to put out the signs. So why is M&A valuable early on? There are lots of reasons, including those on the screen. M&A deals during bombed out bear market cycles will always be incredibly valuable because that is when the over-leveraged, the tired, the bankrupt, the fearful, and the like want to wash their hands of experiments and decisions gone bad. Those with capital or access to it clean up for pennies on the dollar. This should be an important concept for any management team that is playing in this field. You're not in the exploration and discovery business. You're a producer, a developer, a mine and company maker. Value deals are your discovery. So let's look at some examples. I want to keep the focus on uranium M&A examples, but the point is also really well taken when you look at M&A consolidation strategies elsewhere in the natural resource sector, demonstrating this via the gold and copper sectors. In 2014, Lundin Gold acquires Fruta del Norte, a gold project in Ecuador, for $240 million US. Today, Lundin Gold has a market capitalization of 2.8 billion Canadian. 2016, September, Kirkland Lake acquires Newmarket Gold in the Fosterville gold mine in Australia. $764 million US was paid. The company now has a 10.3 billion US dollar market capitalization. In 2018, post an M&A transaction to form Equinox Gold, the company separates copper assets into Solaris Resources valued at about 38 million Canadian. At the time, for an existing set of projects with already known discoveries. Today, Solaris is valued at 1.4 billion Canadian. Other notables you can look into, and there's lots of them, and we haven't included them all here, of course, but Taseko Mines and their M&A pipeline, a gold developer by the name of Rio 2, and good M&A moves during the last bear market cycle by B2 Gold Corp. Now back to uranium M&A. Up front here, we are just highlighting a few transactions to illustrate the point, and of course there are many that we've missed. Paladin had an exceptional set of deals, but an unimaginable deal to secure Langer Heinrich. This was a beautiful stroke by the then management team that will be very, very hard to surpass even in the future. More recently, moves by Encore Energy and also Alligator Energy to secure ISR projects that have a very high likelihood of becoming operating mines during this cycle. The market reward for M&A is clear when you look at the share performances of companies doing both meaningful M&A and also companies doing marginal asset M&A for purposes of consolidation, or even if they're doing M&A for the sake of showing the market M&A. Next, a set of examples on the ugly side. Now this is ugly from the perspective of the buyer, of course, not the seller. Areva, now Orano, spends a whopping 2.5 billion US dollars on Uramin's Namibian assets during the last cycle. Uramin management, fantastic job. Uranium One buys Energy Metals for about 1.6 billion Canadian. Impressive performance by Energy Metals. The asset remains to be non-core to Uranium One still today. Paladin gets in a hostile takeover battle for Summit Resources and ends up spending about 1.2 billion Australian for supermajority of that company. The ending to the story was about 11 years later when Paladin bought the remaining 18% for about 44 million Australian in 2018. Aside from the obvious lessons that were learned and continue to be learned today, we point out these were the top of the market purchases and that none of the assets have ever seen product in a can. The point here is that you never, and I say never, want to be an acquirer during these extravagant market conditions. As an aspiring producer, by this point in the market, and it will come again, you will want to have a portfolio of business sustaining long-term contracts to set yourself up for the next bear cycle. The goal with any natural resource operating business is to tweak the approach to survive through the bad times, plus be strong enough to perform value M&A. Now, to be fair, our presentation won't stop late-stage misguided M&A behavior during this current cycle. Overpayment will happen again, so make sure you enjoy it. So what do you look for with a good M&A deal? Well, the deal has to be priced where multiples on the buy price can be realized later on in the bull cycle. The project must have characteristics worthy of development. Meaningful in this context means good production profile, needle moving for the company, does it have scale, and also does it have upside through more exploration. Mineable means does the geology line up and work with low risk processing methods. Simplicity is always better. Does it have a permit or can it get permitted easily? Are there social issues? Can it do well at global incentive prices or lower? Manageable means can it be reasonably financed, built, and handled by the team? Can it be handled along with other company pipeline projects and growth initiatives? Lead time, very important in this business. Does the project work with internal management schedules? Will the current team be around to see the project reach self-sustaining status? Or what is the management doing to ensure the project goes to good hands if they won't be around? So the project ideally needs to match the time frame of management and when they plan to exit. Just as important, the project needs to have a schedule that means production in the mid to late stages of the price cycle, or it goes into a pipeline of sequence projects backed up by term contracts and also backed by cash flows from other company projects that will be producing. Timing and sequencing is key to the cycle, as well as squeezing every pound of value that can be taken. Furthermore, off-screen, is the shareholder roster amenable to a combined company, and can you secure enough control of the roster to enact your strategy? This is where proper networking, capital funds, consultants, and PR campaigns can make or break your work. Now, internally, we've settled on about 21 global assets, past producing or new deposits, that could be considered for new M&A purposes that match our criteria. And we're not talking about exploration, but only delineated deposits that have a chance this cycle. These won't fit for everyone. It is a cumulative account, but we think it could suit one company or another. In Australia, we have 5 assets. The United States, about 6 assets. Canada, 4 assets. In Namibia, 3. And in other jurisdictions, about 3. Now, you might be scratching your head thinking there are more than 21, and you're absolutely right, but many won't make our viable list for one reason or many reasons. In addition to that, there's a number of projects that just won't continue to advance. As you can see on the screen, an overview of considerations. In the M&A game, it is so important to have deep resources. Convincing other management and board of the value proposition for a merger or acquisition is no easy hurdle. It is better that they align with you, but it is even more crucial that you have shareholder majority support on both sides who see the long view of value. A full suite of tools must be mobilized and has to be at the ready for use. You won't get all of the deals. Some just won't work out. That is why multiple paths must be on the table at any given time, so your time is optimized and the pursuits of M&A objectives is not stretched beyond a reasonable timeline and before valuations get out of hand. As such, line up the deals, one right after another. We're intentionally light on details here, of which are subject to company and target specific discussions, but I hope this gives a flavor. Wrapping up, any intelligent natural resource company builder will tell you to do the heavy lifting when the sector is starved and out of favor. Time is thin and egos are thickening in these market conditions. The windows to capitalize in a responsible and in a valuable way is nearly shut. If you fall into the M&A arena, now is the time to make your moves to rebuild your pipelines. If you are a depleter, producer, add mineable resources to bolster runway, add strong growth. If you're an up and coming competitor in the space, or if you're just consolidating meaningful projects. Now is not the time to be complacent while valuations are still lower. The value erodes by many multiples as the cycle enters middle and late stages, and I really mean that. 1/10 of a net asset value, or NPV, is so much more meaningful than buying something for 1 times NPV and thinking you can squeeze 2 times NPV out of it. You have so much more room for error when you start at a fraction of that. I encourage a few meaningful management teams to take action now before it gets too late. Get your capital groups and consultants lined up, identify your targets, plan for hostile actions, but first come in good faith and reasonableness to see a friendly deal get done for the better of the sum of parts. Do it for the big picture and the ultimate end game value. Be prepared for the worst and have a strategy in place, then execute. M&A is highly important, yet largely overlooked for a time like this in the uranium market. Go get it done, put the hammer down. By the way, shareholder activism is encouraged. Send letters, make phone calls, fax them, email them. Gather groups of investors and drive home the key points relevant to a amenable strategy that sensible people can agree on. Maximize value and make management earn their pay, every penny of it. Start privately and work from there to put the screws down. We should see some meaningful deals soon if the right management teams agree with my view. We shall see. That concludes our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. Reach out if you have any questions about our work at SmithWeekly Research. The best ways to contact us are shown on the screen, and if anyone wants to reach out specifically to discuss M&A work, please contact us to get in touch. Thanks for tuning in, and best wishes to you.